Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Lab. Sitting with you here, as always, you have Alex Trotter, Brandon Wierig, and I'm Lou Fullenkamp. We hope you guys enjoyed the Labor Day weekend. We took a nice little hiatus and just kind of enjoyed the relaxing vacation week. But we're gonna hit the grindstone again here. We're gonna start off today with a little bit of a Mythbusters episode. And the topic of today is weight training for kids. Now, there's been a lot of different myths circulating throughout the years. I mean, I remember hearing a few of these when I was growing up and when I was first getting into weightlifting back in 7th grade. And I remember a lot of younger athletes when they were first starting or going to places like Fast or I can't remember the place in Columbus, but there's different things going around that are just untrue about children getting into weightlifting. So I've assembled about 6 different myths for us three to kind of go through and debunk. You comfortable there, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm good.
Better than recording in the basement?
Yeah, I like a little sunshine in the clouds.
Basement's the coldest.
It is. It's
Okay,
actually really nice. And I think the sound's nice, but that's just me. But okay, so kind of getting into the fun for these. The first myth that I found is weightlifting for children stunts their growth. Children who have a designated or predetermined rate of growth or an end height per se, if they were to get into weightlifting, would be stunted. They would no longer be able to reach that predetermined or growth chart height. That's probably why Brandon is so short and I am so short. And Trotter just never touched weights till he turned 30.
Yeah. Didn't touch them until I was 14.
Yeah. I feel like that's pretty common though for kids now anyway, getting into weightlifting or any kind of training at that matter.
Yeah.
But just to kind of to lead off here, stunting growth. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of science behind the fact that it stunts growth. If you look at a lot of different studies where they implemented weightlifting programs for kids, if anything, it helped them and to develop into better athletes. But there's actually been nothing proven on granted, they did diagnostic imaging with MRI and x-rays in which they didn't see anything changing in the growth plates. But we'll talk about growth plates later on. So stunting, have you guys even heard that? I'm curious, just to see what myths you guys have heard and which ones you haven't.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest one.
Yep.
That's the stunting the growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing about the stunting the growth, which I actually kind of think is funny, is that it actually does the exact opposite. When you get into weight training and you actually get into those things, it's actually promoting a healthy structure, a healthy skeleton.
Yeah.
Right. Now, yeah, we'll get into another myth down the road because there's a few different things for this. All right. Yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. Let's see who gets more angry with this one. It's dangerous. Myth number 2. It is extremely dangerous for children to interact with weights and should be avoided at all costs. Only utilizing functional movement patterns should be the goal for younger athletes.
Functional movement patterns.
Classic.
Have you ever seen a kid just go out and play in a park? There's nothing functional about them. They're tripping over their own feet. They're falling going up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
Odds are they're at the top of the monkey bars, letting go, falling, 6, 7, 8 feet. The impact there is going to be a heck of a lot dangerous than trying to squat with a dumbbell.
Yep.
I was waiting for you guys to kind of jump on top of
Or
that
starting your kid at tackle football in 1st grade.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, that's where the injuries occur the most is from compact or like blunt forces. At no point during your lift is there a blunt force going on, so you're not hitting the growth plates, like you're training the muscles. And with proper form, which is like what we do, because you have to earn the barbell, so you have to earn the weight to go up. You all start with a PVC pipe, you move on to the red bar, which is 15 pounds, then you move on to the women's Olympic bar, and then you earn the right to use a 45-pound bar. Like it's all a progression. people just think that we're just going to load these kids up with like 225 on squat for their first day, and they're 12. It's not going to happen.
Just imagine you guys like introing a kid in their very first day, and you walk them over to a barbell and it's got like 500 pounds on it.
The
Figure
kid
it out,
tries.
bud.
Yeah.
Thrash. You one day it'll lift off the ground.
Yeah.
But
I think a lot of these
Oh,
parents
boy.
that they'll go find somebody that's either like played a certain sport for so long or lifted for so long and that thinks that they're qualified to do that. It's like, okay, if some guy did his taxes on TurboTax, like I'm not gonna trust that dude to do my taxes.
Yeah. He's not an accountant.
It's the same shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Yeah.
I could help you with your taxes. Just kidding. I would never do that. No, absolutely not. Taxes second general. No, I agree with you guys. You know, when done underneath the correct supervision, you know, you can pick, you know, appropriate exercises for them to progress as athletes. I think that when people say it's dangerous, they either have a lack of understanding or, you know, they've had some form of experience back in the past where it wasn't necessarily a positive experience, and so then they go like labeling it as negative altogether. Just
Well, yeah, I'd agree with that. Or they aren't in the field, so they aren't keeping up with the new studies being done. You know, so like let's say that you have a parent that's 35 years old and they have a 10-year-old, right?
whoa, bro, I'm 32. Let's go like maybe like a 40-year-old.
Okay. 40-year-old and they
40-year
have
old.
a 10-year-old, right?
Yes.
Well, so they were 30 when they had the kid, but if they didn't play sports in college, they only played like varsity sports or whatever. So now you're talking that you're missing what, 20 years of research?
That's
I
true.
mean, like imagine how far technology has came in 20 years. Do you not think that that's also happening in other aspects of life?
I think it's
You
a
got to think
valid
about it
point.
like that.
There's a huge gap there going off of the my mom said this, my dad thinks this, or
Yeah.
this is what they did. Because when you think about it, strength conditioning as a whole has only evolved since what, the 80s, 70s, and 80s, like as like an actual profession in science. 70, maybe no, earlier than
Yeah.
that. 60s, 70s.
60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
60s. Yeah.
So
The
like,
But
sports
it
science
didn't.
of it has
Yeah.
evolved
There
a
you
lot.
go. Yeah.
yeah, because the profession itself is so young, and now like educating the public on the safety and let alone the science behind it all, I think needs to be done at a better level before even high school. I think like significantly more in like the younger athletes who are doing like the pee-wee football, the, you know, the how many year-round baseball kids do you see now? Just nuts, and they have no concept of what actual strength and stability is like, but yet they're going to go out there and throw these kids for 80, 100 pitches. Just but
Well,
lifting weights is dangerous.
well, you can also see the difference in our kids that are in middle school and younger that do lift weights and do come to the speed and agility and learn proper form and all this other things. Like when we go to their games, there's a drastic difference. It's like
Mhm.
watching a college player play against a high school team, you know,
Yeah.
in that term.
Mhm.
And then that carries on. Like they already have like 1 foot in front of the other, or one step ahead, I guess, by the time that they get to high school. So that's exactly how we progress them all too. Like from the time that the kid is brought in, let's say that they're a primer, right? And they're 11 or 12. Our goal is to get them in a position strong enough and form wise that by the time they are freshmen or sophomores, they have a chance to be on varsity. By the time that they're juniors and seniors, they're getting looked at for colleges. By the time that they're a senior, they have the opportunity to go and play in college.
Mhm.
By the time they're in college, we want them to be ahead of all the other kids coming in of that freshman class. So
Yeah.
there's nothing that's like a greater feeling than when we get our athletes that have graduated and moved on to college sports, and they text us and be like, you know, this workout program is so easy. Like we're only doing 20 reps for like our warm up on push-ups and they're used to 100, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of nice to hear because you guys are like setting them apart from the pack already as freshmen in college. That's
Yeah.
almost scary. You know what I mean? Makes you wonder what's like the standard across, the United States on that, because you guys have had a
Well,
lot of freshmen, I feel like, who have done that now.
yeah, but the cool thing is like we let our kids set the standard at their new institution.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So not they are being they are creating a path for the next generation of no name athletes to come up through the ranks. So that's something that, I think as they get older and as they reach like their senior year or they're reaching into college and stuff like that, they're starting to understand that they're looked up to more than what they believe that they are, from all the kids that are, in the building when they're training too.
I think that's actually a great point to make.
Mhm.
It's almost like you guys have created leaders before they've even reached that seniority level. And it already starts in the weight room.
But they don't know it though. We're not
That's what
asking them
makes
to be leaders. Yeah.
that's what makes the best leader.
Yeah.
It's kind of fall
I
into the
agree.
role rather than being pushed into it.
Mhm. And that was part of the thought process when we scheduled the timing for the primers, was
Mhm.
because there's an older group class going on at that time.
Mhm.
So like they're setting the example for the primers of like this is the next step of like where you're going to be. So you can almost like it's like looking into the future almost for some of these kids.
Follow the footsteps.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. I'll have you guys talk about that towards the end of the episode, so you guys can kind of give a little bit of an informational on what the no name primers is. Moving on to the third myth, weightlifting, speed training, etc., is only for competitive athletes. Take it
No, I
away.
mean, I saw this thing where if you stop sprinting, you're just dying faster. Like the least amount you sprint, like just your rate of your death just seems to increase.
Mhm.
So it's like there's this thing going like probably 2 3 years ago. There's like this big hashtag going around like in the sprint world is like sprint or die, and that's basically was the philosophy. So it doesn't matter what age you are. A lot of people will peak at like they'll reach their 20% of their life, and they're already have reached their like max capacity of athletic ability or top fitness level, or you still got 80% of your life left.
I'm glad.
The cat wanted to join. So
Oh
she's
my
going to
gosh.
win me today.
This clip is going up now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is literally
That's
how I
perfect.
hang out with her. So
That's
should
awesome.
be all right.
Yeah, Brandon, actually, I agree with what you're saying. I actually think it's Strong by Science was talking about how most people, once they stop being quote unquote the competitive athlete, will only do weight training as opposed to kind of maintaining the training style like an athlete, where like they're not sprinting, they're not working on jumping, they're not working on explosive movements. And there is some merit to the longevity of a human lifespan when they incorporate different forms of training. I actually think there was like a 15% improvement in longevity and like risk of mortality compared to someone who just, so that's for someone who just did weight training. And then there was the other people and there was also compared to a control. But the other people did weight training and some form of conditioning each week. And they had a 30 to 40% improvement in longevity, and their risk for mortality reduced greatly. So there's merit to that. What you're saying, there is.
Well, then you got all
100%.
these people that still lift, and then they get into a situation where it's a pickup basketball game or it's a softball league game, then they go into a full on explosive movement where they haven't done that in 20 years. All they've been doing is moving whatever they think is heavy weight real slow, and then wonder why they're pulling hamstrings and all these other kind of things.
My ACL.
Yeah.
Well, I
That
mean,
sounds horrible.
like we can just talk shit and just use me as an example for that. Because when was like when I had met Brandon in 2021,
Mhm.
I hadn't done a sprint in at least 3 years at that point. And then I think it was after a meet in 2022, I was like 300 pounds, and then we all hopped on to see like how fast we could run in the tread on the tough tread.
I remember
And
that.
yep, blew a tire. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like that's what it is. And I mean, I train explosively and stuff like that, but obviously there's different levels to it, especially when you're in a sprint mechanic.
Mhm.
So now, granted, I was going for more of a top of the line craft, if you will, of weightlifting,
Mhm.
but still. But for the average gym goer, it wouldn't kill you to run a sprint or two.
I agree with you. Actually, I read an article the other day on what was it? There was some race for like centurions, like people that are like 80 years old and above, and it was a 100-meter dash. And
Yeah.
like they were talking about how like people who actually do maintain that like explosive like the fast twitch muscle fibers are actually better off in the long run because they don't just have everything kind of melt away into like stability or into type 2. So it was actually a really cool read, and it was kind of fun to watch these old people run for 100 meters. I mean, granted, it took forever, but it was cool. That's pretty sweet.
Well, people think that you want to, other people that want to try to like lose weight, like burn certain like fat, for instance, they'll go out and run long miles and they're just burning more fat, and like your body's gonna like, okay, something's happening here. I
Uh-huh.
need to store this and hang on to it as long as I can. To where if you train most explosive in sprints, that's going to be the leanest you'll ever be. You're going to burn
Mhm.
a lot of more carbs. The leanest I've ever been was 5% body fat, and I would just go out and do one,
Sprints.
twos, and fours on the track, and I'd finish with peanut butter pie.
Yep.
And I got down to 4.5 to 5% body fat.
You want to write me that workout? I would love a peanut butter pie.
Man,
Run, fatty.
Mm.
got to get that
Hey,
insulin spike up.
hey, I am down 15 pounds right now. I am feeling weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
Just
even like to Brandon's point, if you don't believe him, just Google Olympic sprinter versus Olympic distance runner. Look at the body type. Like the sprinter holds way more muscle mass. He looks, I would say, noticeably younger. And I mean, like he's very lean, or she is very lean.
Nice correction.
Yeah.
well, everybody wants to look like an athlete, but don't want to do any athletic movements.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because they're hard. Like that like I did those pogo, what were they, pogo jumps today?
Yeah, like alternating pogo hop box jumps.
Yeah. And it took me like a set to like figure it out and like get the rhythm down. But yeah, I know that that's going to benefit me even though I didn't want to do it because it sucks.
They did look like fun. I'm not gonna lie. I
Yeah.
saw it on your story. They look like fun. But going on to the next myth here. Okay, kids should not ever lift heavy.
What's heavy?
That's what I was asking. That's going to be my very first question. What would you consider heavy for a kid? And maybe why you would or would not progress loading with the child.
I mean, I got a freshman right now that can probably barely squat the bar, and that's heavy for him. And then I have a fifth grader that can hit 135 on the squat for 5, and that's not very heavy
Mhm.
for her.
Yeah. And I got an 8-year-old that'll squat her body weight of 55 pounds for 10.
Thank you.
You
So
know,
I guess you could
it's
almost
just,
use it as like it's relative, right? Heavy.
yeah. Well, I mean, it just depends. Like
Mhm.
we're not training them to have form breakdowns. That's
Mhm.
that's when the change or the stop occurs. You know,
Mhm.
like when you're like whatever it is, it's like if you're just starting out and you're 11 or 12, then you want to use like a good rule of thumb is like 30% of their body weight. That's how
Mhm.
much they should be doing. They should be doing that for like 15 reps, give or take. And then as they get older to the 13, 14 range, then you can up that to 50% of their body weight. If they can do that for clean 15 reps for multiple sets, then they earn the right to put more weight on.
I always do the 2x2 rule. If you can
Yeah.
hit 2 more reps than like my designated, like I said, we want to do 8 reps. You can hit that for 10 reps. It looks good. We're going to increase weight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
So I
think
think
actually I'm going to
this.
name drop. Yeah, I'm going to name drop one. Quinn. He comes
Absolutely.
from a kind of a, it's hard to explain actually, but he's been coming to us for a long time.
Yeah.
Kind of like has like that town where like they kind of maybe not understand like the whole strength and conditioning realm, where they do have the parents that think that, okay, strength and conditioning or lifting and stuff like that's not for that age kid. And he
Yep.
started doing it at 5th grade, and now he's an 8th grader now, and he's top dog in uh
Everything.
baseball, cross country. He's breaking all-time PRs, like first place in all his events. And then
Mhm.
he's just like, you can tell, like, when he hits puberty, that kid's going to be the
Monster.
dog at his school. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a
Yeah.
sophomore, freshman, sophomore. Like, he's going to make
Yeah.
an impact right out of the gate.
I'd agree.
It's gonna be pretty
Yep.
sweet. It's kind of cool how you guys get to kind of see them go throughout their grade school years and then into their high school career. Kind of like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Proud
I'm
strength coach dad moment.
I'm getting into it. Like I'm seeing a lot more kids that like I started and they're like, juniors, seniors, or they're freshmen in college. And then like Brandon will throw like some throwbacks up where he's had them since they were 5th, 6th grade. And it's just like, oh, like that's gonna hurt. And I know it's gonna hurt when a couple of these kids graduate and it's just like, oh, I'm getting old. Like I've watched you grow, it's just it's gonna hurt.
All right, moving on to the next myth. It's all about bulking up once you hit puberty.
Man, I've been trying to do that for years, man. I'm 30, almost 30.
Yeah. Yeah. I did from the time that I was 20 years old until the time that I was 30. I started at 200 pounds at 20 years old. And when I was 30, I was 300 pounds. So I tried to gradually increase my weight 10 pounds every single year. If you could do that, then you hold some kind of a muscle mass and you're not just being a fat blob. So now, granted, I got pretty heavy there for a minute. It was a little rough.
You're a big dude.
I did
You were
hone
a
it in
big
a
dude.
little.
I noticed that yesterday. You're looking pretty like kind of freaky right now.
Yeah, it's coming back.
The gut or what? Athletic ability.
Yeah, both. But I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, so you're telling me that arguably your metabolism is probably going to be close to the highest that it'll ever be during your puberty, and you're going to try to bulk during that. I don't think kids realize, especially if it's clean food, for example, like low fat kind of stuff. I don't think they realize how much in portion sizes that 4, 5, 6, 7,000 calories actually is.
Yeah.
It's
That is a ton of food.
Yeah, there's nothing pretty about trying to bulk up. You have to have like the image out of your head that you're going to have an abs all the time or that you're going to have like arm veins. Those go away for an extended period of time and then eventually they catch back up. But yeah, you have to be okay with not looking your greatest during that season that you want to bulk.
No, I agree with that. It's kind of a, I don't know, I guess it's like a back and forth with that. Or like you want to put on the mass, but then people aren't necessarily a fan of the aesthetic that they all of a sudden are displaying with the bulk. So I mean,
yeah, and then they quit, and then they wonder why a year later they still weigh the same. Their strength isn't going up. They're not becoming any faster. They can't jump any higher. There you go. You're not eating. You're not like fueling the system.
I think you guys will enjoy this next one. So this is the next myth. Weight training is too much stress on young bodies due to the lack of physiological advantages, including testosterone levels and ability to recover from heavy loading. Interesting.
Oh, dear God.
Yeah, let's go into this one. Testosterone levels with a young child obviously are not going to be super high, right? They're going to be lower levels to the point where like after you're not going to see this 9 or 8 year old with a ripped physique unless that's just how they naturally are genetically. But yeah, testosterone levels, I mean, obviously once you hit puberty, those levels are going to start going up significantly to the point where, yeah, you're going to start noticing those gains pretty quick. But to say and blame that you shouldn't load a child based off their physiology, I think is a very weird block to weightlifting. Like, I don't know what you guys think on that. I just thought that was kind of an odd, like we shouldn't do this just because they can't physiologically support this. Thoughts?
Go ahead, Brandon.
Man, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's like always, it's always changing. It's always gonna adapt. I mean, the human body is designed to adapt. So whatever stimulus, whatever thing you throw out of it, it's going to adapt. And I've never had a kid. I mean, obviously the kid it's a new stimulus, there's going to be some type of soreness there. That's with anything. If you
Yep.
jump out of a tree for 10 foot, something's going to be sore. Or if you do a lunge, there's going to be some type of soreness. But I've never had a kid come back after the day, and then maybe the 72 hours or 48 hours, and that kid's still sore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, at that age, your body is just
You're
always
immortal,
moving.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just crazy to think about.
I don't know. I just think that sometimes just parents. Now, granted, I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but
I can tell you.
your most precious value is your child. So you're going to be the most protective with them, which is totally understandable. I get it, but you're just I don't know. Yeah, I think you're just finding any excuse to not put your child in a potential danger zone, if you will, quote unquote, because you don't want to see them in pain. Well, if you're sheltering them their whole life, then they're going to be in a lot more pain because they don't know how to manage it or how to overcome it, how to adapt to it. They haven't learned things at an early age. Because I mean, kids are like sponges. Like, I mean, they'll absorb everything.
And anything you throw at a kid, I feel like they're going to progress regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, you might not see like size gains, but I mean, like neurological adaptations are definitely going to be there. So, like going back to like one of our older episodes where we brought on Mike Chapman from Stanford, like he said, teach them movement patterns first, and then after that, once it becomes appropriate, load the heck out of it. Obviously appropriately, but like that's a great thing to kind of live by. I feel like, especially with like younger athletes. I do think that sometimes people get on their high horse stating that like, heavy loading could also damage the growth plates. Well, show me what is the incidence of injury for a growth plate during weight training for kids 15 and under compared to playing in sports? If you look at that data, it's actually very, very high in play compared to what it is in weight training. Significantly lower, if not extremely rare.
Like, I was weight training, it was some dumbass doing something stupid with a kid.
Exactly. Thank you.
Here we go.
It's just,
I'll toot our own horn on this, and I'll knock on wood. I started in May of 2021, and since I've been there, I'm not taking this full credit. This is just what I can speak on. We haven't had an injury in the weight room.
Knocking on wood.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that just goes to show that us as trainers, we're not being stupid with your child. It's all about a progression, and we understand that because we've been there. We've had hundreds of athletes. We understand the progression that needs to be done with each individual child.
Let's see here. I think I have one more myth to get into with you guys. Where did I put that? Oh, here we go. Weight training for children will hinder their flexibility and their joint mobility leading into puberty. Some of these are hilarious to me. Like I'm like, who the hell thought this at one point? But I mean, the science is improved greatly. Just it almost kind of goes back to the old like girls shouldn't weight train because they'll become massive, and it's like,
yeah,
God, no. Like
it's like I've never really seen a non-flexible 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Mr. Trotter. I mean, he was a steel beam from a young age, but I mean,
I did not take it very seriously, but that's on me, and I've paid the price like my entire like career, if you will. I mean, I've never been able to touch my toes. Like in high school, I did have like nagging little hamstring injuries, or my calves would be, like pulled, or I'd have like a growing injury, like stuff like that. But I didn't take the time to stretch or be mobile. But I also wasn't training the exercises to full range. I'm not training in that movement to increase my mobility during during that time.
Mm.
So, that's something that I had to live with, and I very much attempt to teach the kids that are in our space now to not do that. Like there is a reason, like it's not a punishment that we're making you squat like astrogras, for example, or touching your chest with the barbell, or touching the dumbbell head like right on your shoulder. Like it's not a punishment that we're teaching you full range.
And that's mostly with like our high school and kind of older junior high kids, but like our 1st through 5th grade primer class,
Yeah.
like you tell them to squat, they are naturally just dropping their butt right to the floor. No problem.
Yep. Yeah. The only thing that we really worry about is they go to their toes, because they were working on their balance, because it's a totally different movement.
It's brand new to them. So if you are an older athlete and you want to work on your mobility, there is a flexibility and mobility thing that I wrote up for you guys on your chalkboard. But because we only got a few more minutes left here on our timer, Brandon and Alex, why don't you guys go ahead and just kind of tell me a little bit more about what the No Name Primers is and who it's beneficial towards.
It's basically just a 1st through 5th grade youth class that we work on just proper basic speed and agility movements, just the bare minimums, kind of work on how to properly hip position, knee drive, ground contact, how to properly come out of a break, how to properly decelerate, all kinds of agility, change directions, kind of setting your body up, how to get in and get out of cuts at the bare minimum, almost like game style kind of play, just so they can kind of still stay in focus rather than like a classroom style thing.
Yeah.
And then we spend about 15-20 minutes of that. After that, they're kind of checking out, so we switch to the weight room, but we work on just kind of the basic fundamentals of proper hinge movements, proper squat, proper lunge, how to proper push, pull, the kind of the rotation, kind of the big 7 movements that will lead them into our eventually get to the junior high school weight class. And then that coordination to where I saw where, well, when I first heard it, I didn't believe it, because it was like you grow an inch, you lose like 2 months worth of like coordination. And then you kind of look at like some of these like older high school kids that when they're, maybe freshman, sophomore, they're like, 6 foot or whatever, 5'9". They can kind of move pretty well. Then all of a sudden they have like a huge 5-6 inch growth spurt coming into that next season. Like, this dude can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
And it seems like it takes a whole year to kind of finally get that movement back. And that's when I kind of realized, okay, maybe that time frame is correct. So if we just continue to stay on top of the movements as they go through their growth spurt, they don't have that kind of relapse of going through that awkward, goofy, uncoordinated phase.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's frustrating, like as an athlete too.
I wouldn't know. I never had that big of a growth spurt.
Nope.
Yeah, it was all it was awful, boys. Not fun.
I'm still waiting on mine, actually.
I was gonna say I want to be a tall boy.
Yeah, 2024, dude. That's your year.
That's my
gotta
year.
be.
Only got a few more months. On the other side, I can touch my toes. So
cool party trick.
Yeah,
I can reach the top shelf of literally anything.
Hey, I have a stool for that. I'm still functional. No, well, we'll help you guys enjoy today's episode. I encourage you, if you have your children that are wanting to get more into athletics, go take a look at No Name Athletics primer class. What age group was that for again, Brandon?
1st through 5th.
1st through 5th. Okay, yeah. So if you're a 1st through 5th grader and you want to get it a little bit more of a head start on your weightlifting and your movements, I highly encourage you to go check that out. But we will see you guys in the next episode.